We're here for our first interview in Blitz Studios in downtown Indianapolis as we cover the NFL Combine throughout the week. I'm here with Galko, President of Optimum Scouting and Director of Player Personnel for the XFL. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Indy's always fun. I've been here, I think it's my 8th Combine now, not 8th or 9th Combine. I've lost track, but it's always busy. There's always stuff to do if you know what they got to look for.
Yeah, so walk me through the process from years prior to now this year scouting for the XFL.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, myself, my company, and our team, we've usually had a lot of people down here. This year it's just me, but in the past it's a lot of working with agents as well as not as much evaluating, right? Because you can always get the times later and the drills are on TV, and I've usually either TiVo'd those or got the film later. But it's really about kind of finding out what's going on in the industry, not just for media purposes and know who's training for who, signing for who, but that perspective is invaluable, I found, right? And also whether it's a trade of information, hey, I know this, what do you know, I can get this, but really in terms of the XFL, right, it's important for me to know, hopefully I find out where Tom Brady's signing, because that ripple effect will have an impact on us 6 months from now. And that sounds minor, but even for the XFL, having the information is invaluable, and that's a big part of kind of what my goal is while I'm down here.
So do you guys try to put together a tier of players who you think, hearing through the grapevine of where you think you're going to be in a year?
It's not even about projecting. It's less about, I don't need to know who our quarterbacks are in the future, but what I've learned is that it takes a lot of time to have either good information, which is part of it, but also good relationships. And there are many agents that I've known for 15 years that we never worked together on anything, but the XFL comes up and we're close, and it's able to be honest and transparent, and we look out for each other. So that kind of stuff takes a lot of time to build those relationships, like multiple years. And there's agents I met for the first time here that'll probably 4 or 5 years from now will actually be friendly, right? It takes that long to build relationships, especially when you see people Senior Bowl, Shrine Game, Combine, next Senior Bowl, next Shrine Game, next Combine. So that's kind of how it takes so long, but it's really important to do that, I've learned. So
yeah, no, the relationship building here is key, and I think that's what happens and gets done more around the Indy than anything else. I'm pretty sure everybody's going to see the exact same film and rewatch the film 2 or 3 times over. The drills aren't necessarily what's important. The interview process is what's most important for the players, and then the networking for scouts, for agents, for analysts, for everybody in the industry. I've come to find out, and that's why Indy is such a destination for all of the professionals.
Yeah. And as far as networking goes, one thing I always tell people is especially you got to have something to offer, right? It's really I learned my first Combine, I came in asking for stuff, and people would just ignore me, and I had to do the whole fake phone calls to get away and not be by myself. You got to actually know what's going on and be prepared. But
this is year 3 for us, so we were those young puppy dogs.
I know it, man. I know. Sure. That's why I'm honest about it too. It's but you have to do that early on. But you gotta, if you want to talk to somebody, you gotta have something ready to go. And before I come here, I prepare for about 80 agents and know who their clients are, what they're doing in the free, just to make small talk, nonetheless add value. So that's stuff. And then NFL teams the same way. Hey, I know who these guys are looking at and what their focus is and all that stuff. And that homework ahead of time, something I take really seriously, and it's always paid off for me.
So can you speak on the challenges of the scouting process through here, and does it differ from the XFL to the NFL to the CFL?
Yeah, I mean, it's still evaluation. I mean, as our whole team is still evaluating every college player, right? I mean, people always ask me, what are you doing here? I'm well, we have a scout report on Joe Burrow. I'm not going to not have a scout report on Joe Burrow. He's never going to play in the XFL ever, and I wouldn't tell him to if he wanted to. But that's kind of what the process is. You have to kind of do all of that work. So, I mean, while we're evaluating guys and not looking at the XFL at all, right now the XFL stuff will come, and these 2020 draft class guys, I can give you the numbers, right? We're going to have 1,000 scout reports on guys, about 255 guys will get drafted, about 400 guys will go to camp, 200 of those guys will get cut. I know the numbers inside and out already, and that stuff will work itself out. But right now it's about kind of collecting information and collecting, just stuff we can use later.
No, we're in the same boat. I mean, trying to get the numbers down and do all that stuff. With can you go across some of your favorite prospects that you have this weekend that you're going to be looking at?
I've done probably the most work on the quarterbacks, just because it's, like I said, it's kind of important for me to know that stuff. Yeah. Especially if anyone's better than P.J. Walker or Cardale Jones. That's what I'm kind of biased by. But no, man, I think the most fun part for me is kind of coming in a little bit of a blank slate. Yeah. And watching these guys just before we get here, but then talking to scouts most importantly, and getting a feel for who is really impressive character-wise, right? What's the guy's name from LSU? Chason, the pass rusher? Yeah. He's an awesome guy. That's something I didn't know about before, and that made me, he goes higher in the draft and maybe something else too. So those kind of guys I like to go back and watch later on that interview really well. But, we've got an awesome team at Optimum Scouting and brought the XFL to evaluate guys. So like I like Jason. I like Sullivan, the tight end from LSU. He's a favorite of mine as well as a guy that can emerge. I mean, the quarterbacks, James Morgan's a guy that I like quite a bit. There's probably even a late day 2 guy. I would think of him that way too. So there's a bunch of guys I like out there, but I try to be as unbiased as possible coming in here.
Yeah, I think Sullivan is definitely being kind of overlooked right now, especially because he did play a little bit of wide receiver, played a little bit of tight end. He can do both. I do imagine him being more pushed towards the tight end position, but he's just going to be a red zone factor regardless. And he's somebody I think is definitely going to come up and show up.
Well, those are guys I always find fascinating because I always one thing I always tell our guys is, hey, is this guy a tweener? People hear that word a lot. Is he a tweener and he can play, or is he a both? Right? Can he play neither? And like for example, I look at Mike Gesicki. Like he could play neither. He's not a receiver or a tight end. Can't do either one. I think Sullivan is a guy that can actually play tight end and learn as a blocker a little bit. Did at the Senior Bowl and still play receiver. So, anyways, that's why I like guys like him a lot because if you can do both, that's where you go in the 4th, 5th round, but you make it 5-6 years.
Where do you find that in this year's draft class is heavy, and where do you feel that it's weak? Where are the strengths? Where
I think receivers obviously pretty deep this year. It's pretty crazy. That's kind of an easy answer too. But I think quarterback is the one that I don't know where media. I haven't been focused on where people outside the NFL really think, but I know that there's 6 quarterbacks this year. And some quarterbacks that people are really talking about highly. Talking to teams, they're just like, no, not our guy. And I think more and more NFL teams have recognized that A, day 3 quarterbacks are kind of a waste of time, and B, unless you have 2 or 3 traits, right? Like Gardner Minshew probably shouldn't have fallen that far, but unless you have 2 or 3 traits, where it's not going to take you. That's why I like James Morgan because he's got the 2 or 3 traits. He's not perfect, but 2 or 3 traits that teams like, but guys like Jalen Hurts, I don't know how far they fall. I don't know if Jordan Love goes in the 1st round. I think it's an overall weak class, and we'll see how it shakes out. But I don't think there's going to be 8 in the top 100 picks. I think it's going to be pretty normal, if not low, after the 1st round.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think I remember saying earlier this season that there could be upwards of 5 being taken. I think there's going to be 4 in the 1st round for sure, and I don't see
3, 4. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be at least 4.
Eason could be the 5th one if somebody falls in love with him.
He'll go first.
You think so?
There'll be 5 in the 1st and maybe 2 on day 2.
You never know. Maybe that bold prediction at the beginning of the year will come true. We'll see. All right, jumping back over to the XFL. Do you see a big influx of players from the transfer portal due to Kenny Robinson?
I think we're kind of wait and see what happens. Kenny was a really, really unique situation where he couldn't play football this season. He had a family reason why he wanted to kind of be a professional, but I think really for him, he is extremely smart, and he was a guy that I wouldn't say was mature when I talked with him back in August, but you can tell he was going to develop quickly. And I think the most fun part about Kenny Robinson is working him out in August. When I worked him out in Pittsburgh, put him on an iPad and have him doing board work. I want to see that this guy can really be a professional, and he showed so much intelligence, but kind of really raw and using him intelligence in football perspective. And that got me excited, thinking he gets even 2 weeks of coaching, he'll be impressive. And to see him go from a college leader at West Virginia and a smart, well-rounded guy to being a pro, which is a totally different thing that people don't appreciate, is that when you even go from college to rookie minicamp, you grow up a ton. And Kenny now being a pro, when he walks in the door, even if you're a really mature guy, right? Even Mason Rudolph, who I think was one of the most impressive guys I ever interviewed the last couple of years, even he had a maturity learning curve in the NFL. Kenny Robinson won't have that. And I hope that message gets out there, and I hope that Kenny, I think he will go early in the draft, and I think him going early, his story, and then him being a success will really drive a lot of players. But as far as if the XFL will talk with college players, I think we're no rush to do that right now.
Yeah.
There's no college season, there's no transfer portal yet, but then we're kind of still discussing if that's worthwhile to do, and we'll go from there.
Something we learned earlier today is that the XFL will be able to, or XFL team specifically, will be able to maintain the rights to these players if they are able to.
Who said that?
That's something that this is something maybe we've seen. I think it was Bleacher Report. So there was a post. They're saying that we're going to be able to maintain the rights to these players if they are to head to the NFL during the NFL season, and then they have the right to come back and play. So say PJ Walker heads to the NFL, makes a practice squad, makes a 32-man roster.
Yeah, I can candidly say that there's no definitive process yet.
Okay.
Kind of on purpose. There's a lot of things that are frameworked out.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense that if guys, that teams have the chance to kind of keep guys, not to hold their rights necessarily, but to make sure that, hey, you've got a home here. We can plan for you to be here. If you go to the NFL, that's great. If not, we've built something here, both from a football perspective and a media perspective too. So as far as how many rights or what that is, that hasn't been finalized yet, genuinely. But I think it's important. I think it makes sense. It's pretty obvious, I think, to have hey, if a guy's having success in Houston, aside from the fact that we want to keep him in Houston for media purposes, he's probably a good fit for that offense. And if June Jones is coming back, he knows what works and what doesn't. So that kind of stuff makes a lot of sense to keep guys around. But as far as that exact process, we haven't finalized that yet.
All right, Eric. Well, I appreciate you coming in and stopping by for us.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Blitz out.